Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Secrets of Strixhaven. Today we're checking out this red-white aggro deck. It's reminiscent of the heroic playstyle where we want to target our creatures with a bunch of pump spells. This time the mechanic is a Repartee, saying whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, we get to, in this case, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control, starting out with a 3-mana 1/3 flying lifelink. So the Hopesinger rewards us for targeting our own creatures with pump spells, but using removal spells on opposing creatures will still trigger a Repartee, so it's quite flexible in that way. And then another payoff here is the Informed Inkwright, 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance, and now Repartee generates a 1/1 Flying Inkling token. So the Inkwright is very synergistic with the Hopesinger, as we can first generate the Inkling, and then with the Hopesinger's trigger, put a +1 counter on the entire team, which will now also affect the extra 1/1 flyer. So these are some of our new creatures, and then we've got our other creatures that we're used to. Hired Claw at 1 mana, and then the Emberheart Challenger also synergizes very nicely in this deck, since we already want to trigger Repartee, so Valiant is pretty similar, where we want to target it with our various spells and abilities, to in this case exile the top card that we get to play until end of turn, and a 2/2 with Haste and Prowess also works quite nicely in a deck that wants to cast a lot of cheap non-creature spells. And then the Slickshot Show-Off with a plot mechanic is another great one that will benefit from casting lots of cheap non-creature spells. So these are the creatures. Now for the non-creatures, we do get a reprint with Ancestral Anger being back in standard, giving a creature +X/+O until end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of cards named Ancestral Anger in our graveyard, in addition to drawing a card. And drawing a card is pretty useful on all these 1-mana spells, since that means we're more likely to string together a whole bunch of them, so we can trigger Prowess and Slickshot a whole bunch in one turn, as well as all the Repartee creatures. So we've got Ancestral Anger that replaces itself, as well as Honor, giving us a +1/+1 counter on target creature in addition to drawing a card. And then we've got a card with Flashback here, the Dig Side Inventory, giving us a +1 counter and Vigilance until end of turn. Flashback, once again, just a single white mana, so this is 2 Repartee triggers in one card. And then to protect our creatures, we also have 2 copies of a Restoration Magic, so it can be useful in the face of instant speed removal, since we are often asking to get 2 for 1 by playing these sorcery speed cantrips on our creatures. So if our opponent has instant speed removal, they can punish an Ancestral Anger or Honor, so then it's nice to have Restoration Magic to counteract that. And then Burst Lightning, as we mentioned, is still good for triggering Repartee, still triggers Prowess and a Slickshot, and gives us a bit of removal, which is sorely needed. And then to top off our curve, 2 copies of the Practiced Offense, which is pretty interesting as it costs more to cast from hand than it does to flash it back, but both modes are still pretty powerful, giving our entire team a +1/+1 counter, and then a target creature gains our choice of Double Strike or Lifelink until end of turn, often going for Double Strike. So this can represent a ton of damage, especially with a Slickshot Show-Off if we can trigger it once more in the same turn. And then it also targets a creature, so it's still perfect for triggering Repartee or Valiant. And then the mana base have kept things pretty simple. We've got our typical red-white dual lands, 1 Bivouac as an extra threat in the mana base, 6 mountains, 1 plains. I did consider the Abandoned Air Temple, but we only have 7 basics, 6 if we cut 1 more, and then I don't see myself activating it too often, but it could maybe synergize with the extra Inkling tokens of the Inkwright. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand's not gonna cut it. This I can try. And then turn 1 Hired Claw, turn 2 Slickshot. Maybe don't have time for a second Slickshot, although if I don't draw a land, the Hopesinger might be worse. I want to see the new cards in action, so we'll try it. Facing black-white. Alright, another Hopesinger, so we'll attack, see what happens, and then probably plot a Slickshot. And our opponent's maybe gonna take out the Claw anyways. Yep, discarding a Voltborn Tyrant, so opponent's on Reanimator. Overlord to mill. And it's a bunch more 7-drops, so they're probably planning to use the 4-mana sorcery where they pay 7 life and get all their 7-cost cards back. Is there any way I can make it so they can't pay 7 life, deal 11 damage here? I don't think so. Slick Shot into double strike and a +1 counter would be 4 times 2 is 8, so we're not quite there yet. I guess we can try Hopesinger and then next turn maybe deal a bit more damage. Yeah. Don't think I can hold back the Slick Shot here. Just drawing a land would make a huge difference, because then we can cast 2 spells and get an extra Slick Shot trigger. Opponent has another Bitter Triumph. Goes for the Hopesinger. Yeah, I think we run it back. Possible they have the reanimation spell, but no 4th land. Probably not beating Sire and Voltborn Tyrant both getting reanimated. So hopefully we can close it out next turn. And get to untap, draw Inkrite, which would pair quite well with the Hopesinger. I think I still try Honor, and then if I draw land we can offense, and then how much damage do we have? So 2 +1 counters, 2 triggers, so that's 7 base power, plus 1 more, make it 8, times 2 16. So that could be game if we draw an untapped land here. Let's try it. Opponent might have another Bitter Triumph here. Wow, okay. Well, I guess we're not gonna have lethal then. Also don't get to draw. But they are down to now 2 cards in hand. Do they get there? They do, wow. Fix what's broken. Get back Sire and Voltborn Tyrant, so... yeah, ended up being kind of the perfect draw with a bunch of removal. Can I get past a 7/7 with a reach and first strike? It's gonna be pretty tough. But I guess it starts with inventory. Want to grow the flyer some more. So I guess now I can give this double strike. And then with the extra counters, we actually force them to trade without losing the Hopesinger. I guess they don't have to block, they can just take 12 here. But we're also gaining 12. And then next turn we can do it again with Flashback. Could get punished by a 4th Bitter Triumph, or maybe another Hex. I guess they're playing those as well. Yeah, they would basically... well, they, I guess, eat the 2 tokens with first strike, so then the Hopesinger doesn't beat it. So it would have to quadruple block. And then, if they have a spot removal spell, they take out the Inkrite, kill the tokens. Yeah, I don't think that's worth it. So, because of menace, I can't single block. So I'll just take 7. I think that's the only conclusion. But yeah, it looks like the offense with Flashback will do it. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. 3 creatures, 2 lanes, 2 pump spells. Make that 1 pump spell. Do have to watch out against instant speed removal, that they don't blow me out when I go for Ancestral Anger. So the Restoration Magic is potentially a big draw. Black-green as per Origins. So still have to decide whether or not we want to plot a Slick Shot or just cast it. Most of their removal that deals with Slick Shot's probably instant speed. So I think we just cast it to get our 1 extra damage in. Could maybe regret it if they're playing the new 3-mana sweeper, giving creatures -2/-2. But so far so good. Alright, let's start with the Ancestral Anger. Can maybe bait out a removal spell. Alright, draw an Inkwright. So in that case, probably just attack and keep up Restoration Magic. Alright, I'm surprised they were hanging on to the Hex instead of playing it in response. Opponent falls to 10, although I am running low on ways to trigger my creatures. And wow, opponent actually had the Withering Curse, but maybe didn't have the mana to cast it last turn. Alright, Challenger, get in there. Flashback Origins, make a 4/4. So yeah, really need a land to get this Hopesinger going. Inkwright plus Hopesinger is quite the combo. Opponent says no to another Withering Curse. And finds the Rise of Sozin, which they can probably cast next turn. Well, I guess I'm not going for the Hopesinger anymore, or am I? I guess I can play it on back-to-back turns. Don't really have a great alternative here, to be fair. Opponent gets 2 mana. And they won't have any issue casting the Sweeper. Get in for 4 first, good trump, but I don't think the 4 damage really matters in the grand scheme of things. Alright. Get the Hopesinger down again, and then maybe next turn we can do some damage. Inkwright into a pump spell could be good. Curious to see what they name, probably a Slick Shot. Yep. So all Slick Shots are gone. And the Storm Soul is next, 7/7, grows with number of lands. So no answer to the Hopesinger, which gives me hope. So what damage can I do here? So I can cast 2, maybe a third if I draw White Source, which would give me 3 plus 3 more 7 counters. I think we're better off just going for the Inkwright. Honor on Hopesinger. Start going wide with our tokens. And then next turn, if there's no removal, we can end it. Although they do have an animated cottage, so if they have another Withering Curse, they can wipe the board once again. Tapped cottage is fine. Do they survive with a food token here, up to 10? They might be able to, although we get to flash this back, so I think we've got enough damage where I don't have to risk blocking the cottage, because then they can animate it, turn it into a 4/4, essentially a 6/6. So then we would be trumping. Then again, the Inkwright is not doing much, since it doesn't attack into the Firelord. Although I guess maybe it does with the extra counters. I'll just take it. At most they can deal 14. What do they have left? Opponent's doing a bunch of math here. Ooh, Requiting Hex could not deal with the Hopesinger. Deals with a token. Opponent up to 9, can make it 12. And we drew another inventory. Well, gotta go all out on the flyer here. And then we might be able to survive an attack on the way back as well. So one top deck deserves another. So our opponent can live with the food token. But now our opponent is the one that needs to top deck. As we're back up to 16. And there we go, awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hands. Got 2 ways to target our creatures, 3 creatures, 2 lanes. Pretty much what we want out of an opening hand. Turn 1 claw. Opponent on a green deck. And of course turn 2 cub. Can't escape it even in the preview event. So can attack with a claw, opponent's gonna take 2 basically, and then probably go for Inkrite second main, since we're not making use of the haste on Slickshot. And if I play Challenger, claw can't attack. So with the Inkrite at least we can build up an army of Flying Inkling. Opponent keeps on ramping. Alright. Vantage was good. So now I don't actually hate going Slickshot into maybe Honor on the Slickshot. And then this can attack, still fine trading for the Badger Mole. Opponent's at 12, and then next turn, I guess I need an untapped land to anger plus offense. Was not expecting a Palaka Worm, gain 7. It was in Foundations. I have fond memories of playing this in Magic Duels. So do we have lethal here? We can anger plus offense. So we get 2 triggers on the Slickshot, 1 more from anger, and then a +1 counter from the offense. So that's 8 with double strike, 16. The Inkling also gets a +1 counter, and we get a Hard Claw trigger, so I think this is Exaxes. Find another Claw, which is also pretty good. And then Slickshot gains double strike. Yeah, this should just be game. Alright, sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, missing a second land and a second color, so I don't think we're keeping... This is better. So, could get rid of the Hired Claw, since Burst Lightning still triggers the Hopesinger at least. But maybe we just keep all the creatures and then hope to find some of our cantrips to trigger our stuff. Yeah, it's a close call. Getting rid of a land is also an option, although I'll feel bad if I don't draw a third. And at least a Hard Claw gives us a mana sink. Right, opponent's got the answer. With another Slickshot, I don't mind just casting it instead of plotting. So we've got the creatures. Can we find the enablers? Maestro is a problem. Would have been a nice target for the Burst Lightning. Challenger into. A wild ride, okay. So we're taking 9 here. Alright, big top deck coming up. Honor was a good one. So then we're going for slick shots. Honor on the Hopesinger. And hope to draw another cantrip. Couldn't quite get that lucky. An attack for 11, gain 3. Yeah, that's gotta be worth it still. So we have lethal even without pump spells. Opponents got their own slick shots. But no way to present lethal here. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Could use more cantrips to trigger our abilities here. But it's nice to have some redundancy in case our opponent can answer the first couple creatures. Alright, against turn 1 elves, it's all about speed. Second anger helps. Can maybe go wide with the Inkrite and then pump the team with the Hopesinger afterwards. Opponent's got some +1 counter synergies. Sleight of hand, okay. So they're setting up. And the Leyline Weaver. They are playing 3 colors, so yeah, let's still try and get Hopesinger in play. Could try and attack first, kind of bluff a pump spell just to get 2 damage in. Hoping they take it. Alright, that worked out. And then next turn, probably time to cast Anger. Thundertrap Trainer with Offspring, okay. Important to note that it doesn't untap the Weaver, since it's technically still a 2-drop. Opponent found an applied Geometry, so that's their big build around. So next turn they can make a 6/6 version that copies one of their non-aura permanents. Pretty good with Terra Symbiosis. For now, I think we're still going to try to do some damage. So we want to Anger. Could also play a second Hopesinger and only Anger once. But I think I would rather get some more tokens going, so make sure we resolve the Inkrite before the Hopesinger. And then I can inventory and give this Vigilance as well. And then we can Anger again. And I could flash back the inventory once again. Alright, that's pretty much what we wanted to accomplish. Now we gotta hope that this is enough. They both trample, so opponent's still forced to chump so they don't die. But now they need to deal with all these flyers. And yeah, these are +1 counters, so it's not until end of turn. So yeah, these two are really made for each other. One goes wide, the other one gives you +1 counters. Their opponent decides to double chump. Falls to 3. Let's see if they can recover. A loading zone, warped for 1 mana, untapping the Weaver, so it was basically free. They could be trying to one-shot me here. We know stock up, Geometry, 1 unknown. So that's going to be something special. But of course, Terra Symbiosis is going to draw. And our opponent's using it on the loading zone to make it 24-24. If they have a fling effect here, I guess we're at 26. We could still maybe survive. But you can see the combo with loading zone. Yeah, that was impressive. And yeah, opponent did indeed have a fling effect. Do they have another one maybe they can cast? It looks like it. The Weaver for another 2. Wow. So yeah, the Shocked-in Sacred Foundry ended up making a difference. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have 4 creatures, 1 pump spell. Not the best ratio, but I think I still keep here. And then ideally draw a couple of our cantrips. Another Claw, still leaning Inkrite here. Opponent might actually have a bounce spell. Then playing another Claw. Or 2 Claws here rather, could work out. Close call. Since we're not targeting anything, maybe I'm better off just playing 2 more Claws out. And if we draw 3rd land, I can play the Hopesinger. Alright, Slick Shot it is. Let's go to attackers, and then I think I'm just playing the Inkrite. Also means we don't have to worry about any flash creatures getting in the way. Since we can always pump the Hard Claw if needed. Opponent did have a Floodmaw, but waited to bounce the Inkrite. So plotting a Slick Shot also could have worked out. Well, I guess Challenger is the play now. We are making progress. But yep, opponent had the Tidebinder, so gets to ambush a Hard Claw, sadly. I guess even if I had the mana available, they could have countered the trigger, and then we would not have been able to pump, since damage wasn't dealt yet. Alright, I see Mana Sculpt, things are making sense, so that's why they're playing the Wizards. Finally drew a cheap non-creature spell. Yeah, I guess we just Burst Lightning the Tidebinder and then attack. Or do I just plot a Slick Shot? I mean, plotting Slick Shot makes more sense when they keep up their counterspell. This lets me get some damage in. I doubt they're playing around a 1-mana pump spell. They also have the Core, which can turn into a 4/4 blocker. And they dig side inventory, so this is what they invented the plot mechanic for. Opponent's got more interaction. I guess now I get 1 damage in for free. Mutable Explorer, another Wizard. Okay, so if I did go for Slick Shot and they countered it, I could play another one and then play Inventory, which would give this 3 additional power. So 4 plus 1 is 5, so it's not quite lethal, but it's close. We could just plot another Slick Shot, to be fair. And then we have plays we can make. Alright, so is it time? The question is, what's our opponent gonna do with all the extra mana? Let's maybe go for the Ink Rites. Still gonna be a little patient. Opponents cannot wait to counter. So yeah, I don't think we're slick-shotting just yet. At least if they tap out for some big sorcery speed play, it leaves them vulnerable to the slick shot. And yeah, Mind into Matter makes sense. So they will most likely have drawn into another bounce spell. Puts in another core. And a Bantram also. Yeah, opponent's fully tapped out now. So the slick shots should take it. The offense is probably my best play. Giving double strike. So we've got a bit of damage to spare. Alright, GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with what looks like a keeper. Got 2 creatures, 1 cantrip, and then some more interaction. So cannot quite keep up Burst Lightning, but next turn we can play Challenger. Opponent keeping up Sacred Foundry, so pretty happy that I drew Slick Shot, because I was about to say this would be a good spot to plot a creature when we know they have a burn spell in hand. And then Restoration Magic can work its magic to protect our creatures. Maestro is pretty scary. So this is my one and only opportunity to Burst Lightning it. So I could go Slick Shot, Challenger, Burst Lightning, get some prowess damage in. And then our opponent can return the favor by removing the Slick Shots. Yeah, I guess that's reasonable. The alternative is Slick Shot, and then I can Anger, Restoration Magic, and Burst Lightning. But it feels like we're missing out on too many Repartee triggers. So I'll go with this. And then next turn I'll maybe have the opportunity to play the Hopesinger. At least with Restoration Magic we can get punished for the Ancestral Anger. A Leyline Weaver. And Impractical Joke is a sorcery, so they must still have some instant in hand. And yeah, the Maestro and Weaver both point towards kind of a combo deck, potentially, that wants to go off casting a bunch of spells in one turn. So, what's the play? I think it's still Hopesinger, can attack first. I doubt they're gonna block. And then, yeah, ideally we get to untap and go off. The Academic can maybe gain life. And their own dig site inventory. So our opponent can get an attack in. And discards a land for lifelink. Take 7. They still have a mana up here. But with the Restoration Magic, I'm not too worried. So I can maybe bait out something. Let's see, what makes sense. Yeah, I guess I just honor on the Hopesinger, and then we'll see if they want to respond Actually, should have maybe targeted Challenger to get to Valiant trigger. Alright, now we can anger on the Challenger. Maybe get a land from exile. Another Challenger. And draw the Ink Rights. So I don't think there's anything else they can really cast for 1 mana here. Erode is white, which the Weaver doesn't produce. So I don't think I need to keep up Restoration Magic. I can just keep going. And attack. And yeah, opponent's not gonna play this one out. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Hand is a little light on creatures. If Hired Claw gets removed, we could be in trouble. I do have a Restoration Magic to protect it, but that maybe means I can't play it turn 1. We are on the draw. I think I try it. Not sure yet how I'm gonna play out my turn. Depends what colors our opponent's playing. A red-black, Surveil, maybe a Reanimator deck. Doesn't really look like Reanimator, but we did draw another creature, so I'm fine playing the Claw out. And then if we suspect removal, we can plot the Slick Shot and then protect it with Restoration Magic. Opponents get the new Emeritus of Conflict. They need to cast 3 spells to get a free, or well, not free, but a 1 mana Lightning Bolt. So it requires a bit of setup, but it's still a 2/2 first strike in the meantime. So I think the plan is attack. Opponent won't be able to block since we can pump, and then probably plot a Slick Shot after all. While they can prepare the Emeritus next turn, they won't be able to cast a Lightning Bolt, so I can still maybe burst Lightning before that happens. Waypoint, another way to prepare your creatures. A little pricey, but I guess it could be worth it with the right creatures. And our opponent passes with a bunch of mana up now. Well, with Restoration Magic, I feel like I can go for the Slick Shots. Small chance they have 2 removal spells. We're about to find out. A Requiting Hex, alright. If they have another one, I'll be sad. Maybe could have honored on the Hard Claw instead. Yeah, that's rough, so we don't get to draw a card here. I guess we'll anger while we can. Yeah, I think I should have targeted something else just to avoid the worst case scenario. Probably prefer Slick Shots over Hard Claw. Lewis will drain for 1. Alright, so we can Ink Rights, Burst Lightning the Lifelinker, which also triggers Ink Rights. And then Honor can go on the Hard Claw now, I think. Alright, so if we draw another 1 mana pump spell next turn, we can do some serious damage with a Hopesinger pumping the Inkling. They're unlikely to prepare their creature outside of the land. Avarice to draw 3 at the cost of 3 life is a bit painful. And it's just a Inspiring Vantage. Well, looks like an attack with Claw and the tokens. And then I think we still Hopesinger. Even though next turn they can maybe prepare and lightning bolt it. Play the tap land since we have some cantrips, so we can maybe use the extra mana. Opponent prepares the Emeritus and bolts the Hopesinger. Alright, that's fine. They'll be forced to chump the Hardclaw here, because they'll be at a virtual 4. And I can pump this, so the Inkrite can then also attack, and then they still die, so yeah. No great options. Can still pump, but we have lethal. Alright, sweet. So yeah, I think we managed to get all 7 wins here with this red-white Repartee deck. And yeah, we got to see most of our key cards in action. The Inkrite, very nice with the Flyer, giving our team extra +1 counters. Still have the solid core of red creatures between the Hardclaw, Challenger and Slickshot, so it's not a huge departure from the previous red aggro decks, but I think the white Repartee cards definitely give the deck a little bit more staying power, and the only real problem I can see is instant speed removal, kind of being a blowout in response to your sorcery speed cantrips, so that's the main thing you'll have to watch out for, but even there's a bit of counterplay between the plot mechanic and your restoration magic, so you can still maybe figure out a way around those. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.